This end of what's trending, as the Office of the National Security Advisor has asked former Kaduna Governor Nasir El-Rufai to submit any evidence supporting his claim that the office procured thallium sulfate, a highly toxic substance. Now, this was contained in a letter addressed to El-Rufai dated February 13th. The response from the Office of the National Security Advisor, signed off by Brigadier General O.M. Adesui, reads: I am directed to respectfully convey that the ONSA has neither procured nor initiated any process for the purchase of such material and has no intention of doing so. However, I am further directed to state that the allegation has been formally referred to the Department of State Services, DSS, for a comprehensive investigation. Your Excellency and other parties involved who may possess relevant information relating to this claim will be duly invited by the service to provide any evidence that may assist in an in-depth investigation, establishing the facts and ensuring due diligence. Please accept the assurances of the esteemed regards of the National Security Advisor. Now, of course, this is coming after what many would call quite an eventful few days. We know that Malam El-Rufai will be headed to EFCC today. They said he has a contingent of about 5,000 people from Kaduna who will be escorting him there. Now he has an impending interview, expectedly, with the DSS as well. Dr. Abati, your take on all of these developments?
Okay, well, very quickly. Nasir El-Rufai, used to be a friend of the APC. He was one of the original, I think, 14 persons who drafted the, documents for the establishment of the APC as a political party. In the 2023 elections lead up to it, he was one of the major supporters of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, taking a principled stand that power should go to the south after the Buhari administration. When, before President Tinubu assumed office, publicly at a forum in the northern part of the country, he said he would need former Governor Nasir El-Rufai in his team. He then said no, he wanted to go back to school, but the president promised him. Okay, as it turned out, his name showed up on the list of ministerial nominees. And then, of course, at the end of the day, for security reasons, he was not cleared. Now, the backstory is that he holds the NSA, his good friend, Nuhu Ribadu, responsible for whatever travails, whatever may have gone on at the back end, which ended up not seeing him on the list. And since then, he's been very bitter, and he became not a friend anymore of this administration. He's been very critical in saying this administration will not come back to power and that he will do everything to make sure that the APC is not re-elected because it is a party of incompetent persons. So there's been that long-drawn, in terms of background battle between him and his old friends. Now the matter came home to roost over the weekend when he returned from a trip abroad, and there was an attempt to seize his passport at the airport and to invite him for questioning by the Department of State Services, on the basis of which he now granted an interview and said he was very sure that his old friend, now turned adversary, Nuhu Ribadu, NSC, is the one behind all of this plot. So that's the background of it. But the other things that then came up is the memo he wrote. He wrote the request for clarification on January 30. It was received February 11. And then the response that you read came February 13. Simply saying that if you have any secret information, you can, assist the security services with that information, saying that thallium sulfate, which is poison, has been imported. And he basically wants to know, what do you want to do with this poison? What quantity? Who is the supplier? And where is it stored? And all of that. Well, they now say, if you yourself have information in that regard, tell us. There's also the other issue of the NSA's security breach, which is phone, from where he was making some quotations. So all of this, I think that there is politics in it. There is the allegation that opposition figures are being targeted and being intimidated and being harassed. 3, that the attempt to arrest him at the airport did not follow due process. Although, you know, there can be circumstances.
Yes.
A letter can be written to you. There's another category where you can be arrested, you know, based on the circumstances. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But the important thing is to say the opposition should not be harassed. Two, those who have information with security implications, the best place to do this, as someone who had served in government in different capacities over the years, he knows how it also works at that level, is to, you know, seek, provide support in terms of information for government.
Okay. All right. Well, as we are talking about opposition figures, there are several developments. Now, let's turn our attention to Peter Obi, ADC chieftain and former presidential candidate, who was the topic of conversation after a video of him issuing a stern warning to anyone who intends to rig the upcoming elections. In the viral video, he accuses the federal government of sabotaging his efforts to clinch a presidential ticket and assured that those who fail to count votes will be counted.
See the democracy. We will do that democracy. If they like, let them do election inside their house without transmission. We will transmit it to them. Tell him that you see this result here. If anything goes wrong with it, I won't say he will die. But if anything goes wrong, something will go wrong. What will go wrong, I don't know. But this result that I'm seeing, it must go like this to this. Don't forget, nobody has challenged this rascality more than me. This country. In that putting boots in 2027, if they don't count it, we count the person.
If they don't count it, we count the person. The statement left many people confused and somewhat divided about the interpretation of his words, with some feeling that Peter Obi was possibly calling for violent interventions. However, this morning he clarified his position via his X account, and he wrote, I'll summarize. He says, our votes must count, and like in the past, in 2027, our votes must count, and all those who are there not to count the votes will be counted. Now, he's finished the statement saying, counted among those destroying Nigeria. I encourage everyone to remain at the polling units after voting, to count and witness the counting and transmission of results. Those who refuse to allow the votes count will be made to count the full weight of the law against rigging. So he said, to reiterate, if you do not count our votes, we will count you among those who destroy our democracy. And the statement goes on, but I think it was a very important clarification because social media went quite wild with some people saying, counted as what exactly? But he has clarified his statement. So
the question we should ask, should we have people rig elections in the first place? Why are we deceiving ourselves? So what we should tell people is that they should never rig. And some people should not think they are the ones that know how to use talk more than others. Because we saw how that happened in the last election. And we saw security officers defending them. We saw the hurt, the killings they did because they feel they have the monopoly of violence. We saw how they brought out Oru. Others are not fools. We should stop thinking people are fools in this country. What we call for is everybody go there, vote, let the result be counted, and it should be. The fact that some people think they will come, they will snatch ballot box and be going, that is wrong. It doesn't make it right. Nobody has the monopoly of violence. It should be the state, and that's why the state should caution those people. But we don't want a repeat of what happened in the last election. That police will be there, will be looking like Lukuluku Bantashi. And you will see people, they will snatch ballot box, they will go away, they will say they can't do anything. Police officer will be telling you that there are many, I can't go after many of them, there's only me, one that is here. It must not happen. Simple. As regards Ribadu and his brother, as far as I'm concerned, Telefaro Timi has written, don't die in their war. These two people were like Siamese twins conjoined before. At a point in the past, El-Rufai's aspiration was greatly supported by Ribadu. Ribadu was his number one man. But when they fell out, The only reason why you've not heard from Rebadu is that he had not been in the limelight for a while. Now that he's back in the limelight, that's why you are hearing the fights. So both of them will know how to settle themselves. They've tried to settle them in the past. They don't settle. They should stop bringing their matter to disturb us. That's just it.
Right. Well, we're still talking opposition politicians. Ayo, I'll come to you on this one. And we're staying within the ADC as Chieftain Rotimi Amechi was active on the campaign trail for the FCT local government elections. He was spotted at Nyanya Market in the heart of Amak, flanked by his wife, Dame Judith Amechi. However, what grabbed headlines was this video of him misinterpreting the tax law as he attempted to explain it to the audience at the rally. Take a listen.
Immediately after election, APC will implement the tax law. The tax law is if I pay you 100 million naira for your building materials, automatically 25 million will leave your account. If you say it's a lie, take my statement to your lawyer. Tell your lawyer, give me the tax law and explain it to me. I'm a lawyer. The moment you pay, I come here, you give me building materials, he says 100 million, you say it's 20, if he say 20 million, if I pay you 20 million, Tinubu will collect 2.5.
He said he's a lawyer and take it to your lawyer. This video has generated a flurry of reactions, including from the presidential spokesperson Bayo Nanuga and chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, who were quick to point out the inaccuracies in his statements, confirming that there's no place in the tax law that states that there will be a 25% tax added to building materials, nor deducted from anybody's funds. So my question, Ayo, is this a case of deliberate propaganda and misinformation, or do you think that maybe he doesn't understand the tax law?
You answer that question. No.
Just
honest to tell you answer that question yourself.
He said he's a lawyer now, and he said take it to your lawyer.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But the truth is that this is what we warned against around misinformation, disinformation, and using cheap political tools such as this, especially to people that you know you will take advantage of their ignorance, particularly because the tax law has come under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of people, there's a lack of trust. There's a trust deficit. And some politicians might play on the trust deficit of the people to campaign, which unfortunately we've seen this play out. Thank God for social media. Thank God for video recordings. I don't think that Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi would be able to come on air, on TV, and defend that statement. And I'm glad that there's now a press release also out to really break it down. But you see, the bad thing about misinformation is that already some people have already run home with the information he has given. And not many of them might have the opportunity to see the rebuttal. And I'm glad that we're trying to make it as wide as possible so people can tell them that, number one is that the tax law is already in place. It's since the 1st of January of this year, some even middle of last year by the establishment of the Nigerian Revenue Service. And then the 25% to scare, because I think the constituents who were speaking to belong to the builders. And so he knew that they would be up in arms. Oh, they want to steal your money. And this is why it's sad when uneducated people who are paid to do this online, but it is worse when politicians who know better use it as a political tool to take advantage of the people. And that's if we want to campaign, there are many things to speak on. There are many issues to talk about.
Genuine issues.
Yes, you don't have to manipulate the truth. I don't want to believe that a lawyer like Honorable Amechi would not understand that what he was saying was not actually true, except he wants to have a one-on-one session with Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who has shown and demonstrated willingness to break it down to any Nigerian who is willing to listen. But I think we should let's be fair in our politicking across all boards.
Yeah,
absolutely. It doesn't need to have a one-on-one. The document is available out there everywhere in the public. As a lawyer, whether practicing or not, and since he says he's a lawyer, he's just to
Google.
Ask for copies of the publication. So look for them on the website and read them. But you know, politicians will throw anything at all at the game, you know, and they will twist anything. And our electorate is very gullible, which was why I was saying the other time that, look, public education is very important, even if it means translating the key issues that affect ordinary Nigerians into local languages, you know, because Nigerians don't underestimate them. If you break it down for them in their own language, if any politician comes to them to tell lies or misrepresent the laws, then of course, you know, they'll be able to say, no, that's not what we read. And that's why the task for the Nigeria Revenue Service, the Ministry of Information, the NOA, is a continuing task. You have to continue to educate the people about the laws and about their rights.
Oh, they certainly have quite a mammoth task ahead of them, but I believe they're up to the task. Now let's turn our attention to Chairman of Transcorp Group, Tony Elumelu, who has warned that Nigeria's electricity crisis remains the biggest bottleneck to sustained economic growth, despite recent macroeconomic improvements under President Tinubu. He spoke after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa on Friday, and he commended the administration for stabilizing the foreign exchange market and supporting small and medium-scale enterprises. He noted that improved policy predictability and relative stability in the forex market were positive signals for investors and the private sector. However, Elumelu stressed that inadequate power supply continues to constrain productivity and economic expansion.
And we spoke about it today. Improvement in access to electricity is critical for economic development. Mr. President realizes this, embraces it, and is committed to doing more, especially helping to fast-track the payment of the power sector debt so that the power generators can do more for the country. That is very, very critical. All of us who are in the power sector are owed significantly, but in spite of that, we're going to generate electricity. So we want to see the payment made so that there will be more provision of electricity to the country. Access to electricity is critical for the development of our economy. In a summary, I was impressed with Mr. President's commitment to supporting small and medium-scale enterprises. I was impressed with Mr. President's commitment to young entrepreneurs. I was impressed with Mr. President's commitment to energizing the power sector so that we can power Nigeria's economy. Thank you very much.
Well, of course, it goes without saying that we all echo in agreement in that statement. And Elumelu is striking the right balance. He's identifying power, of course, as a critical bottleneck while acknowledging other reforms. And so his appeal to the president carries weight as he has built successful businesses and he understands what investors need. And Nigeria's power sector remains, of course, a massive constraint on growth. And the debt crisis facing Gencos proves it. So, engagement continues, and even at this high level, on the average level, every single citizen can relate to this deficit for electricity. Can we harp on it enough?
I mean, there have been many literature studies on the fact that if you grow electricity to a certain megawatt, you're going to have a knock-on GDP growth. Yeah. Nigeria can't talk about $1 trillion GDP. That's why when we talk about $1 trillion, I keep laughing. You can't talk about $1 trillion GDP when you have 5,000 megawatts of electricity. So you also need to grow that. Yeah, we talked about some positives like stabilization of the forest market and everything. But you see, with that, there's a big disconnect between main streets and the streets of the people. Yeah. The spending that goes to the people is not going to the people. Take, for instance, the budget, the capital expenditure of the budget, which is just 36 million. They give health in a country where you have over 200 billion, in a country where they're supposed to give over 200 billion to that health capital budget, in a country of over 200 million people. Look at all the industries, even look at works, look at all of that. You can see that there's a far cry. While the president spends billions on presidential fleets, please fact check me. And this is what Sir Mechi would have campaigned on rather than, talking about tax that was not true. Fact check me. What the president spent on managing the presidential fleet, the presidential plane, the plane that we are still complaining about, the 150 billion he went to use to buy. What the president spent on managing presidential fleet, presidential plane, is more than what went to healthcare in capital expenditure this year. Fact check me.
Yeah.